They did not find a weapon in the crate. They found a heartbeat. The Vareth Dominion had spent 11 years reducing the human colonies to silence, one signal at a time, and by the final sweep of Colony Anselm, there was nothing left to negotiate with, only wreckage, and a supply crate marked rations, non-perishable, and inside it a man who was supposed to be dead and had simply forgotten to be. They did not come to interrogate a soldier. They came to catalog the last known specimen of an extinct species, and what they got instead was a man who, on being pulled out of the crate at gunpoint, looked at the 4 alien rifles pointed at his skull and said, "Took you long enough. I've been in there since Tuesday." The official record called him Subject 1, Terran Male Est, age 34. The crate had been sealed for 6 days. He had rationed a single tin of preserved fish across all 6 of them, which the medical officer found either admirable or deranged and could not decide which. His name, when they finally asked, was Dov Reyes. He gave it the way a man gives change to a stranger, like it cost him nothing, and he expected nothing back. The transfer directive arrived within the hour, translated for the record into the bureaucratic register the Dominion reserved for things it had already decided about. Subject to be retained for terminal psychological assessment. Disposal authorized upon completion of data extraction or upon arrival at threshold station, whichever occurs first. 6 days. The distance from Anselm to threshold at cruising translation speed was exactly 6 days. Nobody told Reyes the second part. He worked it out from the guard's face on the first day, the way the man wouldn't hold eye contact past a second and a half. "You're bad at this," Reyes told him through the containment field on the first evening. "Whatever your job is, you're bad at hiding that it has an end date." The guard said nothing, which was itself an answer, and left. Overseer Yesola was assigned the file because she was competent, and because nobody senior wanted it. Her caste had spent 3 generations proving itself through precision. You did not survive mid-tier Dominion science by being wrong, and you especially did not survive it by being soft. And she came to the first session with a data slate, a translation collar, and the settled expectation that a dying, doomed animal would either rage or beg. The literature on cornered organisms was extensive. She had read all of it. Reyes looked at her collar, which rendered her voice into flat, correct Terran English, and said, "Nice voice, very customer service. Did you practice that, or does it come standard?" She did not have a category for this. She noted, in her log, subject exhibits deflection behavior consistent with terminal denial, and did not look at him again for the rest of the session. "You're writing that I'm in denial," Reyes said, without looking at the slate, which he could not have seen. "I'm not in denial. I know exactly what's happening. I've just decided it's not going to be boring." She left that session 9 minutes early, a fact she did not log. The channel's usual episodes run a discovery loop, a boarding party finding a drive core, a targeting array, a weapon the aliens didn't know they'd left behind. This is not that kind of find. What gets discovered here is smaller and harder to catalog, and it happens to 3 people, one at a time, and none of them report it. The guard. His name was Tass, 3rd rotation, young enough that this was his first prisoner assignment. On day 2, he brought the evening ration himself instead of sending it through the drone chute, which was against protocol and which he did anyway. Reyes noticed and did not mention it, which turned out to be the correct move, because Tass came back on day 3 and did it again. On day 4, Reyes taught him a coin trick. Badly, his hands weren't built for Tass's 4-fingered grip, and the coin, a Dominion half-unit stamped with a symbol Reyes couldn't read, kept sliding off the wrong way. Tass laughed. It was a short laugh, almost accidental, the kind that escapes before the owner has decided whether it's allowed, and he looked immediately toward the door to see if anyone had heard it. Nobody had. Reyes had already looked away, giving him that. The medic. She came to check his vitals on day 3, found them within acceptable parameters, and would have left without a word except that Reyes asked her what her sleep cycle looked like, because she had the specific under-eye shadowing of someone running on borrowed hours. She told him she didn't know why she told him. She noted later, except that he'd asked like the answer mattered. And he said, "You should complain to management," in a tone that made the sentence funny for reasons she couldn't immediately name. She laughed once sharply in a room built for clinical silence, and had to explain the sound to no one, because no one was there to hear it but the subject she was supposed to be studying. Yesola. Hers took longer because she had the most to lose and the most training in not losing it. It happened on day 5, the second to last day, when she asked him professionally for the record whether he felt fear. Yeah, Reyes said. Constantly. You want the list or the highlights? The list would be useful data. Okay, dying alone, dying for nothing. Being the last one and nobody remembering what came before me. Also spiders, but that one's not really relevant here. I assume you don't have those. We do not. Lucky you. She had expected the fear. She had not expected him to hand it to her so plainly, without performance, the way you'd hand someone a tool they'd asked for. Her training had a category for cornered aggression and a category for cornered despair. It did not have a category for a man listing his own extinction like a grocery order, and then making a joke about spiders on the way out of the sentence. She sat with the slate blank for 11 minutes. She did not log the 11's minutes. The formal communication came from Threshold Station Command on the morning of Day 6, and it read the way all Dominion directives read, the specific, devastating politeness of an institution that has never once had to apologize for anything. Confirmed disposal of Subject 1 upon docking. No further data extraction authorized beyond current session. Specimen retention past arrival constitutes unauthorized deviation from Directive 12 and will be treated as such. Yesola read it twice. She thought about the coin trick task no longer bothered hiding from her, about the medic's sharp, unplanned laugh, about her own 11 blank minutes. None of it was data. None of it would survive translation into a report. She understood, reading the directive a second time, that she was not going to write the true version of what had happened in that cell. And she understood this the way you understand a decision has already been made somewhere below the part of you that talks. She went to see him one last time before docking. They're disposing of me on arrival, Reyes said, not a question. Yes. You could have not told me. Most people wouldn't. You already knew. Yeah, but you confirmed it. That's different. He was quiet a moment, which she had learned by now to recognize as the shape he made right before the next joke, except this time no joke came. Do me a favor. Whatever you write down about me, don't make it sad. I'd rather be a bad report than a sad one. Yesola submitted her file 4 hours before docking. It stated that Subject 1 had died of complications from extended containment exposure. Prior to scheduled disposal, natural causes, no further data available. It was, professionally, a small and clean falsification, 9 words that would end an investigation before it began. Because a dead specimen generates no further curiosity, and a disposed one might. She did not do this out of mercy exactly. She could not later fully explain it to herself, except that somewhere across 6 days a category had opened in her that her training had never accounted for, and once open it did not close on command. Tass was reassigned to a supply frigate 3 systems away, a transfer he had not requested and did not object to. He kept the coin. The medic never spoke of the laugh. She thought about it more than she expected to. Reyes was moved, under a name that did not exist in any Dominion record, to a maintenance berth on a frigate bound nowhere official, on paperwork that would not survive close inspection and was never given one. He was, as far as any system of record was concerned, disposed of on schedule. He spent his first evening in the new berth teaching Tass a card game with rules he had to invent half of on the spot, because he'd forgotten most of the actual rules and refused to admit it. You're cheating, Tass said, in the flat, correct English of a translation caller that had, over 6 days, started to sound less like a machine and more like a person who happened to speak that way. I'm teaching, Reyes said. There's overlap. He did not know yet that he was the only human left with a working set of lungs in a universe that had otherwise finished the job. He suspected it. He was choosing, for the evening, not to carry that weight into the game. Yesola watched from the doorway for a moment before logging her actual work for the day, and thought that whatever she had done was not going to look like anything in any report she would ever be asked to write, and that this, for the first time in her career, did not feel like a failure of precision. It felt like the only precise thing she had done all year.